Let me be real with you about something. You got rejected. Maybe she said she wasn't ready, or she didn't feel the connection, or she just went cold and disappeared. And now you're sitting there wondering if she'll ever change her mind. Here's what most men don't realize. Women do come back after rejecting men. I've seen it happen. I've done it myself. But it's not random. And it's definitely not because you chased her or begged her to reconsider. There's a specific sequence that has to happen in her psychology. Her ego has to take a hit. She has to notice your absence. She has to see you differently than when she rejected you, and most importantly, something has to trigger the realization that she might have made a mistake. From a woman's perspective, I'm going to walk you through exactly when this happens, what's going through her mind when it does, and what actually makes a woman come back versus what pushes her away permanently. If you've been rejected and you're wondering if there's still hope, or you just want to understand female psychology on a deeper level, you need to hear this. Because the truth is, the way you handle rejection determines whether she'll ever reconsider or whether you'll stay in the friend zone forever. Here's the truth from a woman's perspective. I'm not here to give you manipulation tactics or tell you how to trick someone into wanting you back. That's not what this is about. What I'm going to share with you is the genuine psychology behind why women sometimes reconsider men they rejected. The things we talk about with each other, the things that actually go through our minds when this happens. There are 7 specific triggers that can make a woman come back after rejecting you. Some of them are psychological, some of them are emotional, and some of them are completely situational. But they all have one thing in common. They shift her perspective on you in a way that makes her question her original decision. I'm going to walk you through each one, explain what's happening in her mind, and most importantly, tell you what you should and shouldn't do if you want this to happen naturally. Because the reality is, you can't force this, but you can absolutely position yourself in a way that makes it more likely, or you can destroy any chance of it happening by doing the wrong things. So let's get into it. First, you need to understand something most men miss completely. Not all rejection is actually rejection. Sometimes what looks like a no is actually a test. And this is critical because if you misread it, you'll either walk away from something that could have worked, or you'll chase something that was never real to begin with. Women test men. We do it consciously sometimes, unconsciously other times, and one of the most common tests is seeing how you react when we pull back or say no. Are you going to panic? Are you going to chase? Are you going to get angry or defensive? Or are you going to stay calm, stay grounded, and respect the boundary without falling apart? Here's the difference. When a woman genuinely rejects you, there's a coldness to it, there's distance, and there's finality. She's not playing games. She's not checking to see if you'll fight for her. She's just done. But when a woman is testing you, there's still energy there. She might say she's not interested, but she's watching your reaction closely. She might pull back, but she's still engaging in subtle ways, still responding to your stories, still asking mutual friends about you, still keeping the door slightly open. A friend of mine admitted she did this once. She told a guy she wasn't ready for a relationship, fully expecting him to chase her, to convince her, to prove he wanted her. That's what most guys do. They double text. They ask what they did wrong. They try to negotiate. But this guy didn't. He just said, "I respect that. Take care." And he disappeared. No drama. No desperation. Just calm acceptance. And it completely threw her off. She couldn't stop thinking about it. She kept checking her phone, wondering why he wasn't reaching out. Eventually, she was the one who texted him first. That's the thing about testing. When you pass it by staying grounded, you flip the dynamic entirely. But here's what you need to know. Even when it is genuine rejection, not just a test, that doesn't mean it's permanent. Because something else can shift her perspective later. And that's what we're going to talk about next. Here's the counterintuitive truth about rejection. When you're always available, always reaching out, always showing up, your presence becomes background noise. She gets comfortable. She takes it for granted. And ironically, that comfort is what kills attraction. Because when something is always there, it stops feeling valuable. But the moment you pull back, the moment your presence disappears, something shifts in her psychology. Suddenly, there's a void, and that void makes her notice what's missing. This is basic human psychology. We don't value what we have until it's gone. Loss aversion is real. The fear of losing something, even something we didn't think we wanted, triggers a response. I'll be honest with you. I've experienced this myself. I remember this one guy. We had been on and off for a while, and honestly, I thought I had the upper hand. He was kind, patient, emotionally grounded, but I treated that like it was safe. Not exciting. I thought he'd always be there. So when I pulled back, I expected him to chase. That's what usually happens, right? But he didn't. He just went quiet. And at first, I told myself I didn't care. But then I started noticing his Instagram. He looked lighter, happier. He was out at events, traveling, hitting the gym, smiling in ways I didn't remember seeing when we were together, and I hated it. Not because I wanted him miserable, but because I suddenly realized I no longer had that hold over him. I had let a good man go, and now he was thriving without me. That absence created a shift in my mind. I started questioning everything. Was I really that forgettable? Did I matter at all? And the more time passed without him reaching out, the more I wanted to reach out to him. That's the power of absence. But here's the thing. Absence alone isn't enough. There's something else that has to happen first. Most men think it's about her heart changing. It's not. Her ego changes first. And this is crucial to understand because the ego and the heart operate on completely different timelines. When a woman rejects you, especially if she's the one who ended things or pulled back, there's usually an ego boost that comes with it. She feels in control. She feels like she made the decision. She feels like she has the power. And part of that power comes from the assumption that you'll chase her, that you'll try to convince her, that you'll show her how much you care by not letting go. That's what most men do. They double text. They ask what went wrong. They explain themselves. They try to fix it. And every time you do that, you're feeding her ego. You're confirming that she made the right choice because you're proving that you need her more than she needs you. But when you don't do that, when you just accept her decision and walk away calmly, something unexpected happens. Her ego takes a hit. Because she expected you to fight for her. She expected you to show that losing her mattered, and when you don't, it disrupts her entire internal narrative. Picture this. A woman tells a guy she's not interested. She expects him to send a follow-up text, maybe call, maybe ask for another chance. But instead, he just says, "I respect your decision. Take care." And then nothing. No reaction. No emotion. No desperation. Just calm acceptance and silence. At first, she might feel relieved. But then, slowly, the questions start. Wait, he's really okay with this? Does he not care? Did I not matter to him? Was I just another option? And that's when her ego starts to crack. Because the validation she expected, the confirmation that she was valuable enough to fight for, never came. And here's the thing. Once her ego is bruised, it opens the door for her heart to start questioning too. Because now she's not operating from a place of power anymore. She's operating from a place of uncertainty. And that's when everything starts to shift. This is the moment that changes everything for her. When she sees you genuinely happy and thriving without her. Not posting sad quotes or pictures trying to make her jealous. Not sulking or visibly broken. Just genuinely living your life, looking better, doing better, being better. And here's why this hits so hard. When a woman rejects you, part of her assumes you'll stay stuck, that you'll be sad for a while, that you'll miss her more than she misses you. But when she sees you've moved on, not just emotionally but visibly, It triggers something psychologically called loss aversion mixed with FOMO, the fear that she missed out on the best version of you. I remember seeing this with the guy I mentioned earlier. When I looked at his social media after we stopped talking, it was like looking at a completely different person. He wasn't posting about me or our relationship or anything sad. He was out with friends, traveling, hitting the gym consistently, smiling in photos in ways I didn't remember. And what killed me wasn't that he looked happy. It was that he looked happy without needing me to be. That realization is brutal for a woman's ego. Because suddenly, you're not the guy she rejected. You're the guy she let go of, right before he became his best self. And now she's wondering, what if another woman gets this version of him? What if I gave up on him right before he leveled up? What if he's better now because he's not with me? This is retroactive jealousy. She starts imagining you with someone else who gets to enjoy the upgraded version of you, the version she didn't get, and it eats at her, because in her mind, she had the option first. She could have had this, but she said no. And now it feels like she made a mistake. But here's the critical part. This only works if your growth is genuine. If you're posting things just to make her jealous, she'll see through it. If you're trying too hard to prove you're over her, it has the opposite effect. It has to be real. You have to actually be thriving, not performing. And even when she starts feeling this, even when the regret kicks in, there's still one more thing that has to happen before she actually reaches out. Women don't come back randomly. There's always a trigger moment. Something happens in her life that makes her think of you in a way she hasn't before. And this is where timing becomes everything. Because no matter how much she's been missing you quietly, no matter how bruised her ego is, she usually won't reach out until something specific triggers that emotional vulnerability. The most common triggers are stress, loneliness, disappointment with someone new, or hitting a milestone moment. Let me give you an example. Imagine a woman is going through something difficult. Maybe work is overwhelming her. Maybe she's stressed about family issues or money or her future. She's in an emotionally vulnerable state. And in that moment, she remembers how you used to respond when she was stressed. Most guys would tell her to calm down or stop overthinking or try to fix the problem immediately. But you didn't do that. You were the guy who looked at her and said, "I've got you. You don't need to figure this out alone." You were steady, grounded, safe. And she took that for granted back then because she didn't realize how rare it was. But now, when she's stressed and the guy she's dating tells her to just relax or brushes off her feelings, or when she's alone and has no one to turn to, she remembers you. She remembers how you made her feel. And that memory hits differently now because her current situation contrasts so sharply with what you gave her. That's the power of trigger moments. They create emotional comparisons. Present dissatisfaction highlights past value. And suddenly, rejecting you feels like a mistake she can't stop thinking about. Another common trigger is seeing you with someone else, or hearing through mutual friends that you're doing well or dating again. Suddenly, the idea of you being unavailable becomes real, and that reality shift can trigger panic, because as long as you were quietly moving on, she could tell herself she had time. She could reach out whenever she wanted. But the moment she realizes you might not be an option anymore, the fear of losing you permanently kicks in. Here's what you need to understand. You can't manufacture these trigger moments. You can't force her to feel stressed or jealous or nostalgic, but you can position yourself in a way that when those moments do happen, you're the person she thinks of. And that positioning comes from how you handled everything up until now. The calm acceptance, the genuine growth, the absence. All of it builds a specific image of you in her mind. And when she's vulnerable, that image resurfaces. But even when the trigger happens, even when she's thinking about you constantly, there's still an internal negotiation that has to take place before she actually reaches out. This is where the comeback starts to form in her mind. She's been thinking about you. She's noticed your absence. Her ego has taken a hit. She's seen you thriving, Something triggered her emotions. And now, she's standing at the edge, trying to convince herself it's okay to reach out. But here's the thing. Even when a woman wants to reconnect, her ego is still protecting itself. She doesn't want to admit she made a mistake. She doesn't want to look desperate. She doesn't want to risk rejection herself. So she starts rationalizing. She creates narratives in her head that justify reaching out without making her feel vulnerable. The most common rationalizations are things like, I'll just check how he's doing. It's been long enough. We can be mature about this. Or, maybe he's been thinking about me too. I'll just send something casual and see how he responds. She's testing the water, trying to gauge whether you're still open to her without fully committing. I can't lie. I've done this myself. I've typed out messages and deleted them. I've stared at his name in my contacts, wondering if enough time had passed. I kept thinking, was I really that forgettable? Did I matter at all? And the longer it went without him reaching out, the more I wanted to be the one to break the silence. But I couldn't just say, I miss you. That felt too exposed, so I looked for reasons. A song that reminded me of him. A place we used to go. Anything that gave me an excuse to start the conversation without admitting I regretted letting him go. And this shows up in subtle ways. She'll start watching your stories consistently. She'll like an old post. She'll send a random text that feels casual but is actually calculated. Hey, I saw this and thought of you. Or, how have you been? She's reaching out, but she's doing it indirectly, leaving herself an exit. If you don't respond the way she hopes, here's where most men mess up. They either ignore her completely, thinking they need to keep playing hard to get, or they respond immediately with too much enthusiasm, which makes her pull back because now she has the power again. The right response is somewhere in between. Acknowledge her, be warm, but not desperate. Let her know you're open, but you're not waiting around. Something like, hey, I've been good, focused on myself lately. How are you? It's friendly. It shows you've moved on, but it leaves the door open without chasing. But here's the most important thing to understand. Even if she comes back, even if she reaches out, your response in that moment will determine everything that happens next. So here's what that response looks like. The comeback isn't the resolution, it's just the beginning. And how you handle it determines whether this becomes something real or whether you fall right back into the same dynamic that didn't work the first time. Here's what kills it immediately. Desperation. If you respond like you've been waiting for her this whole time, like nothing has changed, like you're just grateful she's giving you another chance, you've lost, because now she knows she still has all the power. She rejected you, disappeared, and you still waited. That doesn't build attraction. That builds complacency. The right response is grounded but open. You acknowledge the past without being bitter. You show her you've grown without lecturing her. You're friendly, but you're not chasing. Something like, I appreciate you reaching out. I've been in a good place, focused on my own growth, but I'm open to seeing where things go if we're both in a better space now. That response does everything. It shows you're not holding a grudge. It shows you've moved on emotionally. It shows you're not desperate, and it leaves the door open without handing her control. She has to meet you where you are now, not where you were when she left. So here's what you need to remember. Women do come back after rejecting men, but it's not random. It happens when your absence creates a void, when her ego takes a hit from your non-reaction, when she sees you thriving without her, when something triggers an emotional memory, and when she finally works up the courage to reach out. And in every single one of those moments, how you responded determined whether she'd reconsider or move on permanently. But here's the truth that matters most. You don't need her to come back to win. The real win is becoming the kind of man who doesn't need her validation to feel valuable. Because whether she comes back or not, you're growing. You're building yourself. You're becoming unforgettable not because you chased or convinced, but because you stayed grounded and focused on your own work. I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a woman come back after rejecting you? What do you think triggered it? Drop your story in the comments. I'll be reading and replying because these conversations matter. And if this helped you see things differently, share it with a brother who needs to hear it. Hit subscribe for more real talk about how women actually think. That's it.